Hi there, welcome. It is Tuesday, the 7th of December. Following on from this morning, a lot of the market has done clinically perfect technical moves. We had another big flow on yesterday, and how quickly the market forgets. S&P 500 is now in striking distance of those all-time highs. It was the end of the world last week, as you remember. We're going to go through what we saw today with myself and Mahdavi in the stock market and the futures market. A quick wrap. The Dow Industrials closed just 2.3% from its all-time high. The S&P 1.1% from the all-time high. The Nasdaq was the stud today, closed up 3.2%. Russell was up 2%, but it's still the weakness of the lot, as we talked about last week and this week, still 8% from its high. The stars today were the stocks, with the Nvidia, the big mover, up $23, up 8%. Intel was up with the talk of their IPO, and many others there. The IPO, the Mobileye unit, sorry, not Intel itself. The weakest was Western Union, down 2.8 out of just six components of that tech sector were down. So all sectors of the S&P actually closed higher for the second day in a row. News-wise, we had a US trade balance, which narrowed to $67.1 billion. To put that in perspective, Australia, a country of 25 million people, versus what, 370 million here, Mahdavi? It's a lot in America.
Yeah, about 370. Yeah.
Yeah, so that pulled like I think $14 billion surplus. So we have some trade issues here. The productivity and unit cost report was revised lower, and that is the largest decline in productivity in the United States since 1960. So let's keep that in mind. Unit labor costs were revised up 9.6%. That's all going to be relevant on Friday when they talk about CPI and inflation. They glossed over it today with the FOMO. Consumer credit increased by $16.9 billion in October. So let's go through what we saw today quickly on the charts. We'll put them up. So both of us trade predominantly the S&P futures, and Mahdavi, as you know, trades the Nasdaq and the S&P futures, whereas I spend most of my time on oil futures today and the S&P, and we'll go through some of the stock. So S&P trucked up nearly all day, carrying on from yesterday. You can see on the 5-minute chart it was pretty well all day above that cloud. Murray Math, it didn't stop until we got to 8.8. So a very consistent market, what you'd see with a FOMO or short covering, whatever you want to call it. Basically, it was just a consistent uptrend. And carrying on from yesterday that we spoke about, we continued up from that fall from Friday. We broke through the cloud and those gamma levels overnight and just soared again all the way to 8.8. There was never really any selling required until we hit 8.8 up here. That was a long trade carrying on from it started on Friday. We had a bit of choppiness yesterday, and then overnight there was one short trade we took here at 8.8 down to the Tenkan. Remember 8.8 and the Chicow, so it was finally overbought, and then it held at the Tenkan right at the close. So we had a nice big run up there. And on the weekly, what we've harped about since Adam was a boy was this Tenkan. We actually closed over it today, earlier on. So that was the big move. And moving forward, the key to all that, and as you know, we spent a lot of time trading Apple, and that on our 4-hour chart, which you can see here, and I'm about to bring Mahdavi, and we'll talk about the Nasdaq. So on Apple, just a nice consistent move, and we continued, and now we're almost at 4.8, but well overbought. So we should see some correcting after another record high after hours today of almost $174. We have a lot of work to do to fill this in and rebalance it. And the tankard's all the way down there at 167. So there is some work, and it is a consistent one. Okay, Mahdavi, do you want to talk through what the Nasdaq did today, or any?
Yeah. I mean, today was, man, it was like what a difference a day makes, right?
Yeah.
You know, we were going from hero to disaster, and now all of a sudden we're back to the great days of the bull market.
Right.
Nothing's changed. Well, I mean, my way of thinking is I still think this is the market's going through a rotation. When we get volatile like this, there's some things ahead that are happening. I don't know if this, who knows? I've been wrong the last couple of years, but I think there's more stuff happening this year than any other time in the past 3-4 years, besides the virus out there, So let's see. Let's hope we get a Santa Claus rally, end the year good, and push this thing out to next year, and everybody make a lot of money. But just be careful.
Right.
I don't know. We'll see if this thing holds. We're almost back to near highs. These are tough days for me sometimes trade because, I don't believe it, but let's see how it goes.
Right. Well, actually, good point. It's hard to believe the rationality, but your discipline keeps you in it all the time, right? So, and Mahdavi's more order flow and watches the levels like that, and that combines well with what I watch. I guess it is order flow, really, when you look at Tankin and Murray. It's all maths, right? We're both basically math guys.
Yeah.
And so we look at that, and that keeps you directionally. And we also, 4 or 5 weeks ago, we were pretty clear that, hey, we're not any of these, stocks that don't make money, Russell, all that sort of stuff. In fact, I went to the point of just Apple and S&P pretty much, right? Outside of Apple and that, it trades very well. It's a tight, very deep options market, very deep stock, trades with 1 cent spreads most of the time. So yeah, a big straight move there today.
Yesterday I didn't do very many. So I did a couple of stock trades, but today I did more stock trades than that. But yesterday was, man, I got roughed up a little bit. But today, got back in, did more stock plus the S&Ps and the NQs. So I got back into my rotation of playing stocks and futures. So it was a little better day.
Yeah, well, tell us about, you did a couple of, there was a couple of small caps I noticed you really killed today.
Yeah. Well, I got it. I seen this one play. It looked like it could make a run, and I can tell you the name of the stock. It was ENSC. I liked it. One of the guys we trade with called it out, and I got the first time we got in it, and all of a sudden the thing took off. It looked like really light shares, and we could move it. And so we all got in it. We rolled it up, got out a little bit early. Then I looked at it again. I still thought it had legs, and I still had to do a little bit more makeup. And we loaded up on it. Thank goodness the thing went over $3. We got out, and that was probably my biggest winner of the day, and made up for a lot of the mismanagement I did earlier in the day.
Right. Yeah, not believing that. It's hard sometimes with all that fear in the market to believe some of it. I think what keeps me in is I'm just hardcore on that Tankin and think, the Ichimoku and the Murray. You read that order flow absolutely to perfection on that one.
With the speed and the reluctance, and just keeps going up with no pullbacks and just traps you in. If you were short, they just punished you.
Right. And I think that's So we had Julian yesterday, those gamma levels, and that reminds us just how big
what happened last week.
where people are, right? Yeah, after last week, it's astonishing, really, how quickly they forget, right?
The total opposite. Last week, if you were long, they just punished you.
Right.
Flipped it.
I mean, 100%. But here's a marker that, like, oil's my other main thing, as we know. And have a look at some of this movement. So remember, last week it was the end of the world, right? So we'll look at a daily first.
Hey, mate. I forget. We're not going to do it. The NCIA was looking like it might make a move. So. But it's all right.
Yeah, it has just popped up a little bit there. So we usually wait until the stock market finishes, unless there's not. So it's basically got about 13 minutes to go. So we are actually seeing that when we talked about just moving. So if you're wondering why we do it at different times, but let's quickly focus. Maybe we can get that in. Oil went down to 62, and it's just done what the stock market did. So whether it's a little bit of risk on, risk off, or the market just got so much so ways, but there are also other things on oil and gas. We had API reporting today, EIA tomorrow, but you also had Putin and Biden meeting today. And as we all know, that was all about Ukraine. Ukraine's relevance is the whole natural gas thing with the pipeline. They owe Russia a bunch of money, and America seems to trying to redirect what's going on here with conflict in Russia, conflict in China, etc. But look at this move. We talked about this in our pre-morning, so hopefully people benefit from it. It was a nice move all day, and that's the 10-minute. Let's look at that's natural gas, sorry. But if we look at that, it continued up and went all the way to R2, which, if you remember, was our possible target. And sometimes these happen. That's why you're disciplined. And it got all the way over 74. We actually spun around and actually took profit and went short and got out at R1. So that one worked out mathematically perfectly. Tomorrow, API, which we have on the website, was a mixed result, a big draw as far as all crude, but we saw a big build in gasoline and in the Cushing, which is, of course, the one we always watch with WTI, that being the futures hub. So be sure to watch that tomorrow. Overnight, we're going to have an interesting session. All that's out is Japan, but obviously Asia, Australia is going to come in, and they've seen what's happened in the US. Europe will see it. There's not a lot out in Europe tomorrow. So, and overnight it's probably going to be the usual, talking about the virus, other things that may come out geopolitically. So just be aware of that. We have all that there. What else are we looking for tomorrow? Oh, earnings. What are we seeing?
The biggest thing that I have on my radar for tomorrow, mate, is the 10-year auction at 1 p.m. I think that's going to be pretty important for shaping market sentiment. And then, we of course have a back-to-back, but we then have the 30-year auction on Thursday. So the 10-year auction could set the stage for the expectations of that 30-year auction.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier at the start there from our FX point of view. Earnings-wise, so that could be an interesting one. Auctions today was basically a non-event. It was let me try and think what it was. It was a 3-year today, wasn't it? And it was only one basis off that on the difference between going in and the high yield of the auction. Earnings, there's UPath out tomorrow, which was one heavily hit. You got Campbell Soup, RH, which used to be called Restoration Hardware, I believe. But the big one that I have an interest in watching, probably won't do anything, is GameStop. Mainly that's the meme stock of the century, all we talk about. And it's going to have a lot of interest, a lot of short positions, a lot of long positions, a lot of gamma positions. And that's the Reddit ones love. Anything else, Mahdavi?
I mean, I'm just, I want to see what the market does tomorrow. Do we pull back? Do we trade sideways? If we trade sideways and keep these gains, it could be very positive, for the market going forward to the end of the year, and that's it's kind of wait and see, I guess, right now.
Right. And so keep an eye on your charts here. And we've had Alex has just popped in from Markets for Mayhem. So
Alex was on the call this morning on that stock. Thank you, Alex.
Yes.
Yeah, no worries.
And Alex, and if you haven't, for those that aren't familiar, Alex also has, and I'll put them in the notes, he has just started running his podcast, which is proving very popular with a number of people, as you can see, and he's focusing more on, as you guessed it, bond markets, but also we're very similar views on macroeconomic issues, and he's also a real student of the technology sector. In particular, the whole security issues, and so whenever Mahdavi and I have a security issue, actually that too on our computers, but also about the different companies involved. He's fantastic on that. So if you want to learn tech, make sure you're following him. And that's about all for me. Make sure you get a good sleep. Anything else from Mahdavi or Alex before we lock up?
I'm just waiting to see how tomorrow and this week trends out. If we hold, I think we could have the Santa Claus rally after all. Which last thing, I didn't think it was coming, but
right. Well, just remember Friday's CPI, so there should be a decent pullback beforehand, or it could get messy, because you always want to have the market rebalance. So in Ichimoku terms, you want your Chikou to be back at a stable position. So make sure you like and comment anything you want us to you would like to see better or fill in more from all three of us. And I think that's all. Is that all from everyone?
I've got a little more to add in. Yep. If it's helpful to anyone out there, I think we're seeing some positive changes underneath the surface. Today was a day with wide participation to the upside. Breadth was very healthy in the Nasdaq, New York Stock Exchange, and Amex. The factors that were leading were, both value and growth factors. So both the, high beta, rate sensitive stocks were rallying, as well as the cyclicals. We saw small cap growth and high beta stocks really the strongest across the board. And so that was, that was really giving me a sense that this is a pretty healthy, broad-based market rally. We also saw the bond market soften just a little bit. Rates were coming off a little bit. Real yield curve was steepening, which is healthy and exactly what we would want to see if we expect 2022 to be a year of, economic growth. It might not be gangbusters. We don't have the same baseline comparisons and base effects that we did in the first quarters of this year, but the first quarter of 2022 is probably going to be a decent year for our economy. Might not be quite as strong as the fourth quarter, but I do expect that we're going later cycle here, and I think underneath the surface that those plays are going to continue to benefit unless the Fed pivots to be more dovish or unless we see the economy really start to slow down meaningfully. So, even though we had a nice rally in rate sensitive high beta stocks, probably a good opportunity to take some of that off and reallocate it to those later cycle plays.
Yeah, good point. I mean, the thing that can really derail the economy, the way it's, if we go back to Bernanke with consumer sentiment, would be severe carnage on the stock market at this point, So Powell and all that are well aware of that. And at the end of the day, we harped on about it, and that's why this rally was no surprise, technically or whatever, because interest rates have barely moved. The tape is barely anything. And as you well know, I pretty well see it as all that talk more an excuse than anything, a really bad positioning or greedy money management or whatever you want to put it. But anyway, let's all enjoy a good supper tonight and whatever you do. And have your trading plan ready. You know your technical levels. Some of those stocks were crazy moves today on the upside, catching some of the crazy moves on the downside. So be rational about what you do, and we will see everyone bright and early in the morning. Well, actually, Alex and Mahdavi don't seem to sleep, but I'm going to have a good sleep, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Thanks, guys. Okay, thanks, Mahdavi, and thanks, Alex. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Sorry, Mahdavi, you had one more thing?
No. Just always be killing it. That's it.
Exactly. There you go. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Okay, thanks, mate.